Hello everybody, and a big welcome and thank you for joining me for this little tutorial I've put together for my tank treads. I've had a few people ask for this. I do apologise for the delay in videos. I've been quite ill actually for the past few days since I uploaded my last video actually. I will be uploading more frequently after Christmas, but yeah, thank you for bearing with me, and yeah, I'm going to talk a little today about the tank treads. So, the treads in question today were actually made in LittleBigPlanet 2. The video was recorded in LittleBigPlanet 3, but I will be using these treads for the topic of discussion today. So, here is an example of some of the treads for the Abrams tank that I did a video on a little while back. That was also made in LittleBigPlanet 2. But yeah, I'm just flicking between preview and what is it when you flick between preview and not preview mode. Sorry, I'm a little bit rusty on the terminology there, but you can see that it's you can see a bunch of bolts there, and the middle row is actually solid as well. There is a middle row, so there is a little bit of a trick to making these treads. I'm just showing here that the middle row has an opacity tweaker on it as well as a material tweaker for making everything indestructible. Every single tread has a tweaker on to make it indestructible. It's only the middle treads that have an opacity tweaker on to give that illusion of two tracks of treads there. So next up, I'm going to give a little example of how you actually go about making these treads. So again, these were built in LittleBigPlanet 2. I'm not exactly sure because I haven't built a set of treads in LittleBigPlanet 3 yet. But I think you could probably get away with making any metal. But yeah, these ones are the I think it's a black cutlery set, something like that. You can sort of flick back through the video, then you might just catch the name of it. But yeah, so I'm just showing that it kind of goes in a bit of a zigzag pattern there between the middle row and the background and foreground row. So I'm just going to give a quick example here of how you actually assemble the treads. Well, the way I did it anyway, to kind of maximize the strength. So I will say this about these particular treads. I had many people play the Abrams tank level back in the day when it was uploaded on LittleBigPlanet 2, and nobody was ever successful in breaking the treads. I think I had one person in particular actually comment that he played around with it for about an hour and a half and he still couldn't break them. So yeah, what you do is you stick three pieces together like that, and you kind of get, with the middle one, you kind of get to the halfway point. So you place one in the background, one in the foreground, and then the one in the middle you place slightly poking out a little bit, so about halfway, and then you can just copy and paste there. So in a moment I'll be discussing going back to the bolts, but yeah, I'm just kind of giving an example here of how you go about laying the the treads out. Depending on how long you want your tank to be, how big the tank is, the model of the tank, depends on how sort of big you would build your line of treads. Yeah, so anyway, we'll move on to the bolts now. Yeah, so moving on, you'll notice a line of bolts going across the foreground layer of treads. So basically what's happening here is you've got your three treads glued together through the three layers, and then you want to bolt the foreground layer to the first middle layer of treads, so the next one along the track. So you keep going along like that. That's why you've got that middle one poking out. So if you can imagine, you build a ring of treads. Eventually, you curve around and go back on yourself. You can line it up in such a way that it actually makes a complete sort of track, and then you will bolt the final one in that little gap right there at the front. At the start, and they should all line up. Obviously, you might have to manipulate them a little bit, but yeah. So that kind of joins all of them together. So the whole thing is hinged upon a network of bolts that are actually attached together that way. And yeah, it's actually easier than it looks. So next up, I'm going to give a little example of the tweakers that you want to be sort of putting on these treads, because you know, you can have the strongest sort of setup that you like, but if they're not set to indestructible, then they are unfortunately going to break. It's just the nature of the game and how the physics work. But yeah, it doesn't hurt to you know, try and maximize you know, a design built for strength in the first place. You know, because I know plenty of people that built tank treads back in the day on LittleBigPlanet 2 and 3. I think even LittleBigPlanet 1, although we didn't have tweakers back then to make things indestructible, but luckily they kind of rectified that in LittleBigPlanet 2. But anyway, so on the background and foreground one, you basically just want a material tweaker set to indestructible, not sticky, you know, that kind of thing, not grabbable, because you don't want people to be able to grab hold of the treads unless you do want that, then by all means. And then the middle set, you simply want an opacity tweaker. So on LittleBigPlanet 2, we didn't have an opacity tweaker. We did have a invisible material, an actual material given to us. I can't remember what pack it was now. It might have been the Marvel pack or Move pack or something like that. I can't remember. But luckily with LittleBigPlanet 3, you can actually get around this really simply with a an opacity tweaker. So yeah, this is how I'd recommend sort of tackling that problem. So you get the strength, but you also get the look. You know, it looks far more effective than having 3 tank treads. So next up, I'm just giving a little example of when you've actually got to the stage of having a complete track of treads, and how you can actually go about sort of lining them up when you're building, because, you know, as everybody knows, as soon as you let as soon as you press the play button, they're going to drop to the ground unless you've got hold of them. So you can actually just sort of map out here a couple of wheels at each end. I will actually show later on in the video a little bit of the Abrams tank more in depth on, you know, sort of what's going on underneath. But yeah, you can see here that you can just use a couple of bits of cardboard just to kind of get that nice uniform shape. You can prop them up in place and then obviously have them as set to a static object rather than a dynamic object. And you can see there they're lined up quite nicely, ready to be ready for a tank design to be sort of built around them. Alright then guys, so next up we're going to look at the Abrams tank that I built itself. This will give people a little idea on how to go about sort of actually constructing this setup within their tank. Now, I have quite a simple philosophy when it comes to building things in LittleBigPlanet, and it's basically keep the inner workings as simple as possible while making everything else look complex. So I like to kind of, my building style is I want people to look at things and go, wow, how did he do that? When in reality it's actually quite simple. So from before, when I had those 2 pieces of cardboard, you can see there that it's actually they were sort of taking the place of 2 wheels. Now these wheels do turn, but they are static. They have no suspension or anything of the sort. They are essentially anchor points for those treads. So the treads will go around those 2 wheels first and foremost, and all of the other wheels are just there as essentially buffers. You know, you can see there's a bit of glass running across the top. That's actually stuck to the, you can just see in the background there that the back piece of cardboard. So the glass, it could be any material really. Obviously with the material tweakers you can set it to not sticky and no friction. But the glass is there to kind of just stabilize the treads so they don't fall back onto the wheels there. I don't know why that motorsport's spinning there. I think I might have missed that while I was sort of prepping this for the video. But That kind of made me laugh when I look back. Excuse me. But anyway, yeah, so you can see there, so there's a piston and a spring that looks like it's attaching to each wheel. Now, that is basically the truth, but there is actually an invisible piece of material that those two wheels are bolted to, and it's the material that the piston and the spring are attached to. You'll see here in a moment. I'm actually just going to take one of the wheel setups apart so that you can get a better look of what I'm talking about. So earlier I was talking about invisible materials. Now there was actually another way to get invisible material in LittleBigPlanet 2, and that was by way of a glitch. So you could take a piece of material, place it down, shrink it down, copy it, but before you place it, kind of make it really big, place it down and keep shrinking it, and eventually you would get something that would turn invisible there. You can see that piece of metal. So it's not really important for this because, like I say, in LittleBigPlanet 3 you've got invisible material tweakers anyway, opacity tweakers should I say. But yes, that is what the spring and the piston are attached to. So they're bolted to the top of that piece of glass. So again, the glass is useful for stopping the treads from dipping into those wheels and getting caught up in that. And also they can be used as an anchor point for these pistons and springs. So you'll see there that the piston is set to stiff, and its length is about 12. Same with the spring. The spring is actually set to stiff as well, and its strength is quite high. The piston has no strength to it whatsoever. The piston is simply there to stop the wheels from sort of warping, if you like, while the tank moves along. They're kind of there to take the weight, while the spring is there to absorb the shock. So, you know, the piston and spring are set to 12, like I say. So if you like I'm doing here, if you're holding the tank up in the air, the wheels will only go that far. So it's a little trick that you can use to have, again, strength and stability, but also movement. So the strength comes from the pistons, but the movement comes from the spring. So you've kind of got two in one there. And in a moment here you'll see what it looks like when all of those components work together. So you've got the two outer wheels, you've got the glass running across the top, and you've also got the pistons and springs on the buffer wheels, I like to call them, the middle wheels, if you like. So yeah, because the spring and the piston are only set to a length of 12, the wheels will only drop that far. But you can see how they move upwards. So they also can only go up so far, but the spring, because of its strength, it gives it a bit of bounce. So you've got the natural kind of suspension there, while the piston is taking all of the impact, basically. The spring does take impact as well, but the spring is free to move up and down, while the piston, it's stiff, but it has no strength. So if that makes sense, so it can't move from side to side and warp, but it will allow it to move up and down. So the up and down movement is basically all the spring, but the piston stops it from moving side to side. But yeah, the two outer wheels, when you set your tank treads up, you can pull them out quite far, but not too far, obviously, because you want them to be able to go around. But you can test it, while it's suspended in the air, and yeah, it's when it all works together. Like I say, with that piece of glass across the top as well, it's a pretty well-rounded system. But yeah, and you can angle the camera in such a way that you can't really see what's going on, so it's even sells the illusion even more. So there you have it, guys. That is my quick little tutorial on how I went about building the tank treads for the Abrams tank, and you can use this method for any tank design. I do apologise for the big gap in videos. Like I say, I've not been too well. You can still hear it in my voice, but yeah, I just wanted to put something out there that people have asked for, and yes, after Christmas, look forward to more videos coming out. Anyway, cheers.